Hello, hello, little rats. Welcome back to another episode of Chatty Rats. I am your co-host, Rasheen, and I'm joined by my beautiful
Natalia Vargas. Hello, hello.
Hi, baby. How you doing?
Good, good, good. It's pretty and hot in Colorado, so life is swell again.
You're ready for
It is
summer?
lake season, baby. Lake season since we don't have beaches.
Hey. I can't imagine growing up in California and then transitioning to like lake life. How do you find it?
I know. It's different, but the pro is that you can do like cutie water sports, like it's a lake, so the water's pretty still. So you can like paddleboard, you can kayak, you
That's
can
true.
actually, so it's like different, so you can like bring like a floaty
That's what I
in
was
the
gonna say, the
big lake.
floaty. You're not
The
getting
floaty is
slapped
nice.
around by waves and stuff.
Yeah, that part's cool because if you can actually be in the lake in the stillness. So like my favorite thing to do is going down the creek in a floaty. So
Oh,
there's
that sounds
these
so
creeks
fun.
that kind of go down. So you start at the top and it's really fun.
How do you get back to where you were? Do you walk back?
You just grab your floaty and like climb back up. You can also rent the shuttle if you want to, but it's really close, the one that I go
Oh,
to.
okay.
So
Far,
you
like a
can just like
far
you go
walk.
no, you go all the way down and you like climb back up. And then what we do is that we buy a rope. So if we don't want to float all the way down, you have a little rope and you can tie yourself up to like a rock or like a tree and you can chill.
Wow, this
Different
is like
experience.
so different.
But it's so
So
fun.
that does sound fun. I'd like to experience that once in my life.
Yeah. So it's different kind of summer, but there's still water to play with, which is good.
I know water
But
is just something else.
I know I love the beach personally. So can't have it all, I guess. Can't have it all.
Yeah, as long as there's a form of water. I went to the beach yesterday, so I had a nice time getting slapped around the beach.
Hmm.
It was funny though, because I looked beat up after, and
Uh-huh.
we like stopped by a coffee shop before driving back to LA from Laguna Beach. And this girl comes up to me and she's like, "Oh my God, I thought it was you, and I follow you." And
Wait,
she's in the
what?
close friends. Yes. And we had like a really nice conversation. Loved her. But the funny thing I was going to say is like every time I've had someone recognize me and come up to me, I've looked beat up. Like, because this was like post
No.
beach day. And I'm just like, these girls are literally going to be like, Instagram is a lie. This girl looks nothing like her photos. But also, on a side note, the girlies that I've met are so freaking cool and just makes me love being on social media because sometimes you're like, I'm just speaking into the universe and you're not getting anything back. So you're like, does anyone like me? Is there any purpose to my content? So when you actually like meet humans and put faces to like the names, it's such a different experience.
Yeah.
But it also had me thinking, like, I love building like a small community. I enjoy these interactions so much. And I can't imagine ever being like the Kylie Jenner or the Kardashians level where those interactions are just too. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, I love that
Well,
these are pleasant interactions for me, and I wanna kinda keep it at that, if that makes sense. Like, I wanna be friends, and I wanna talk to these girls that I'm meeting.
you like that it's like intimate, like people can recognize you and that you can have a cute little talk. Whereas like if you were
Exactly.
like a Kardashian level, then these little interactions don't exist anymore. It's like huge fandom, like where it's like not
Yeah.
close anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
So I get that. That's like I think the difference between like being like a smaller influencer where like you can still get recognized here and there and like it's cute versus like Alex Earl where like if she walks on the street, it's
Yes,
probably like
yes,
crazy, you know?
yes. I know, it made me realize I don't think I wanna be big, I just wanna be, like, big enough to make money, if that makes sense, but I would like
Yeah,
to stay small because I think
so you can keep it
it's
intimate.
more exactly, like, I love the intimacy and, like, that actual, like, one-on-one connection and, like, small connections, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I can imagine that's so cool
Yeah, it
that
was
like
really cool. I loved her. I was like, I would literally be like, it's cool to meet someone, you're like, I would literally be friends with you, and it's cool that, like, we met because I'm online, you know?
I wonder if she like was able to spot you because she recognized the IKEA chairs.
No,
Because
so
you posted
the way she recognized me is actually pretty insane because Natalia, I didn't have that. I had my hair up, shades, big white shirt, nothing on me. And I hadn't posted that day. So she just recognized me off the raw, which is,
Amazing.
yeah, it was pretty cool.
Wild. Well, that's amazing.
It's funny when I tell my mom like about these interactions, she'll like be like, "How many followers do you have?" Like, I feel like you don't even have that many. Like, you don't get that many likes. Like, how is it? Like, how do people recognize you? I'm just like,
You're
thanks
getting
for
humbled.
humbling me, mother.
Oh, wait, that's hilarious. No, but that's so cool. I can't imagine what that would feel like. I would feel like, oh my God, everything is worth it.
Yeah, you literally want to cry at that point.
I mean, that's even like on a micro level. If like someone I know tells me that they listen to the podcast, like when I went to the wedding
So
in the
true.
Philippines, my friend Danielle, like, and like we don't talk every day or anything like that. She's like, "Oh my God, it's to your podcast like every week. Like, I love it." And it's crazy because I'm like, wait, what? That's so cool. I can't imagine someone like just a stranger in the wild. That's so cool. So cool.
Yeah, it is. It really, really, really is.
Maybe one day Shane will get recognized for the rats.
I think we
Ba-ba-ba-bam.
right,
Yeah.
like people are like, "I found you through Chatty Rats." That would be like
Yeah.
so fucking cool. Like they didn't know
The
either of
rat
us
girls.
beforehand. Yeah, the
Yeah,
Rat
it's super
Girls.
cool.
So, topic that we've been a broken record about, but I think we have like a bit more clarity and not clarity or just like different perspectives on it now, different takes. And I feel like this topic I will never hash out is the life crisis you have at your late 20s and 30s and just the feeling of lost. There's just so many feelings that come with this part of the life, right?
Yeah.
I keep talking about Charlie. We talked about it last week. We're going to talk about it now. But like Charlie XCX has a song where she talks about how she's dealing with the idea that she might run out of time. And I think that's kind of like what starts to hit when you hit your late 20s and 30s is you realize, oh, I can't do everything. I have to pick and choose. And for
Yeah.
some things, I might run out of time. Like I might not be able to focus and put my head down on this one thing, or it just might not be in the store for me anymore. And
Yeah.
that's like a hard thing to deal with because you kind of have to grieve these different paths that you thought you possibly might be able to go down of. So
Yeah. Damn.
that enters life crisis of the late 20s and 30s and
Yeah.
something I'm currently going through, something you're probably going through, something probably a lot of rats are going through. So let's
Yeah.
talk about it.
I know. So like I think it's 2 episodes ago I talked about how I was going through these crossroads of like, do I quit stand up? Maybe I'm just not it's not that good. It's just like a Delulu dream that I just have to just like let go of so that I can focus on my 9 to 5, the science part that actually brings me income so that I can achieve other financial goals, right? Because I
Mm-hmm.
am turning 30 in 2 months and I envision a little more wealth in my life, family trips, all these things. So I have financial goals that I have to meet. And this was interesting because I think it's exactly what you're talking about, like the crossroads of letting go of certain things that you thought you were going to do in your 20s and maybe mourning that lost. And I remember talking to my therapist about this at length, being like, I feel like if I let this thing go, I'm going to be jealous of all the people that are going to continue to pursue it while I'm over here not pursuing it. But at the same time, I was like, I feel like I can win because then if I'm putting in average effort on both because I'm overwhelmed, like being mediocre at both, then I'm not going to have the stand up. And now I'm also not going to have my financial goals. And I'm going to see
Mm-hmm.
people like climb the corporate ladder in a sense. And I'm going to be left behind here too.
Mm-hmm.
And then she was like, that's just it. She was like, you're going to feel a jealousy on either path. It doesn't matter what you pick. You're going to have jealousy on this side or on this side.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, then how do I pick? And she was like, it's about picking what you think it's authentic to you and what's going to bring you happiness because you're going to lose something no matter what. And I was like, and now
Yeah.
it's crazy to hear like, oh, I'm going to lose something no matter what because
That's
that's also life.
hard. That is hard. I think that's what I've realized is like the difference between the 20s and I guess like entering 30s is like in your 20s, you're so optimistic about the future because you can literally be and do anything. You can go down any path and everything is available to you as long as you know you're healthy and whatnot. The world is
Yeah.
your oyster. And then when you
Yeah.
hit your 30s, some paths start falling off and you're like, maybe I can't be the CEO of blah, 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 like of this startup. Maybe I can't even have kids. Maybe I can't do this. And I think reckoning with that, because you had all this optimism and all these possibilities, it's now like, oh, the reality is some of these aren't any more possibilities. How
Yeah.
am I going to learn to mourn it and then be content, fulfilled, and not become this jaded, pessimistic person after it?
It's also one something that my therapist did ask me. She was like, "What are you okay with losing? And what is like an
Mhm.
absolute no?"
Mm.
You know? So she was like, "You can do both." She's like, "Mind you, sometimes life surprises you, right? But you can continue to do both and just be okay with like, okay, maybe you won't go that high up in your company. Are you okay with that? You know? If you're investing time
Mhm.
in like doing stand up, and vice versa. Are you okay with just being like a local comedian?" She's like, you have to think about those things. Like, what are you okay with? And sometimes like it doesn't all have to be like greatness or nothing. You can also do a
Yeah.
lot of things and like it's just kind of like what's going to bring you joy. And then she was like, if you go up in your company, does that give you the freedom that you need to have a family? Like it's like you have to think about the things you're okay with losing and framing that, right? For example, like if I go down like a full corporate world route, I have to think about things like, okay, one day I want to be a mom. What kind of mom do I
Mhm.
want to be? Then unfortunately, as a woman, that puts limitations of like how high I can go in science. Yes, we can play the game of like, I can do it all, but maybe one day in this universe we can. But as of today, like, if I look around, like, it's very difficult for a mom to be the president of the company without compromising family life.
Yeah.
So you can do certain things, but you have to pick like what's going to bring you the most joy or what matters to you. So this is where I think that you have to kind of mourn and start to say no to certain things that you wouldn't have otherwise said in your 20s because shit's getting real.
Yeah, exactly.
But I kind of wanted to ask you. So, number one, it's good to note that we're all feeling this. And this could
Mhm.
look career. Like, what the hell am I going to do it? Oh my God, maybe I didn't accomplish all the things I wanted to accomplish by this age or by this time. This can also look like, I got friends breaking off engagements. Like, I got friends
Mhm.
getting married. Like, it's like everything is crazy. And I think that we all feel like we're losing something to some capacity.
Yes.
What would be advice that you would give our listeners as it comes to dealing with all these very conflicting emotions that make you feel pretty lonely? Because I feel like, oh my God, like I'm the only one that feels like they haven't done everything they wanted to do in their life. I feel I have a list of things I haven't done, and it's like daunting. Number one, why do we do this? And two, how do we move forward with this in a way that doesn't drive us totally insane?
I think there's a couple things I can think of off the bat. So one, I think it's just accepting that no matter where we are and position in life, humans will always want more. You buy the mansion, you want a bigger one, or you want to then redo the entire
Mhm.
kitchen and redo the house, right? Or you're
Yeah,
married, you're thinking about, okay, well, when are we going to have kids? Or like my friend just got pregnant and I haven't, right? I think
right.
no matter what stage you're at, you're always going to like want to get to the next stage. It's kind of like how we've been as kids, right? Like we were kids and we were just waiting to become adults.
Right.
And I think we need to like always remind ourselves and like kind of center around that. On top of that, we will think the grass is greener. And it's like,
Yes.
no, it's such an illusion that the grass is greener on the other side because it's not.
100%.
This Reddit post that I've just been thinking about for the past 2 months since I saw it, and it's really, really, really helps me. So there was this girl basically talking about how she just got out of a relationship, and her partner, before like they got out of a relationship, called her a loser and was like, "You're not going to amount to anything. You're a loser." Blah blah blah. And she was like, I took a look at myself and I think I had to like agree with her because like I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't like where I wanted to be in my career and like all these other things. And then she's like, you know what epiphany I had though? I realized everything I feel about myself, everything in my life is fixable. My job, not having it is fixable. Like taking care of myself and improving on my looks is fixable. And it's just like if you have that perspective of like, in a way, you can fix everything that you complain about in your life. I don't know
love
if
that.
this relates, but that really helped me because right now I feel like my career isn't where I want it to be. But if I just think to myself, you in 2 to 3 years probably won't feel this way because you can fix it. And if you work on it today, you will fix it, right? And I know in
100%.
some things we don't have control, like meeting a partner or having a kid, sometimes those things we don't have control over. But in the other aspects that we do, I think it's fixable. I don't know if I'm going off on a tangent, but
No, I think that makes sense. I think it loops back to the idea that sometimes when we're at a crossroads, like, right now, like I was like, we have to make a choice. We have
yeah.
to decide, like, maybe this isn't working. Maybe let's try something else. We often live in this concept that everything we decide is finite, that it's
Yes.
forever
Yes.
the choice, it is
Yes.
cemented in, it is a foundation. When really that's not the case, right? Like, for example, you can take a hiatus in something, like pause, for example, incredible creative thing you're doing for a second
Mhm.
and take another path for a minute. We think it's over. And it's like, that is not how life works.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
you just don't know how things are going to come loop around and when opportunities are going to arise. And same thing goes for, like, for example, like I get engaged today, we get married. That's not permanent, baby. You never know. Like, as
Yeah,
much as we want things to be
exactly.
permanent, I could be locked in at 27, let's say, married, I'm gonna have kids by 30, boom, 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 boom. You literally don't know. This person could cheat on you. Like, it's like
Yeah.
you even if you think you got it like that, it doesn't mean anything. So when we think about, like, all the things that we haven't gotten, we have to think about how, like, number 1, things can always change even when you get them. And number 2, whatever paths you take in life, you literally never know. In the same way that, like, you may not be an overnight success tonight, but you just don't know if something's gonna change in a couple of years and things, "Oh my god, like, here I am today."
And it's like you needed that perspective that you gained from the times that you weren't an overnight success, right?
Yeah,
Maybe in 2, 3 years, you're gonna need that. Or like you need
exactly.
because you wouldn't have I don't know. You just like don't know how these stepping stones will come to play later in life. And I think I was telling you, I think if we saw how the story of our life ended, we would probably be like a little bit more patient with ourselves and just be like,
Mhm.
yeah, this is just a couple years. You're going through a transition. Your story ends up being beautiful no matter how it ends up.
Exactly.
Just focus on the journey of your story rather than I think we get so hyper fixated on like the check marks and the achievements, having hit these certain marks that we expect for ourselves that we forget about the story and the journey.
Yeah, and I think that is good to it's kind of a story of, like, trust the process in a sense that
Mhm.
and don't think that you have all this power necessarily. Like, sometimes, like, life is gonna do its thing, Like,
Exactly.
so I feel like if there's anything that you can hold on from your 20s is you should always keep that, like, hope that, like, "Hey, like, even if I take different paths, like, life she got me. She has
Mhm.
me." Don't stress so much that, like, everything that you're doing is so intense. So I feel like we have to keep that hopefulness alive, even though it feels like, "Oh my god, like, I'm giving up on something," or like, "Damn, I didn't get to do this," because we often think that in our 30s, like, suddenly we die and, like, it's done, you didn't do it. And
Yeah.
and I know it's especially difficult for women because we do feel like we have this biological clock. There's definitely that pressure, right? Especially as it comes to, like, building a family. And I have to reframe myself too, like, we think about, like, having kids as, like, "Oh, that's it. I can't do anything else."
Mhm.
And we have to think about life in a different way as well. We can continue to have success and possibility even when you have children, even when you have
100%. This is a tangent, but there's so many stories of CEOs and founders who had their start when they became moms. I don't know if you knew, but
Yeah.
like the Dry Bar founder, she started it all when she was a mom.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so she started it from like just like blow drying people at their homes, and then obviously Dry Bar became what it was, like the first location and then
Oh,
spread.
wow.
But yeah, she was the mom who started this company. She was like in her late 30s or 40s. So I just think, like you're saying, like sometimes we think life is over when kids happen or when we're just in our 30s or when we hit our 40s or whatever it might be. But there's so many counter examples. And I think that's what you need to do to make yourself move past the rabbit hole of falling into pessimism is like give yourself some counter examples.
And you were saying that, like, in thinking about all these different paths, like, what do I do? Like, I'm not where I
Yes.
wanna be. You were paralysis, right? Can you talk about that?
Yes, like a analysis paralysis where I was like not taking any action for like the last year or so. I was like, well, maybe I should get an MBA. Maybe I should do this. Maybe I should become a speech therapist. Maybe I should become an accountant. Like literally going down like so many things. And it was freaking me out because I was like, well, which one is the right choice? Like none of them
Yeah.
feel right, but I feel like I have to make a choice. And I think the conclusion that I've come to in the last month is choose one and just do it because the more I analyze and get stuck in this paralysis cycle, I'm not going to go anywhere. And it's like
Yeah.
you sticking to one and just choosing it, even if like none of the options feel 100% light, is going to still lead me probably closer to where I'm meant to end up because at least I went down a path and I'm learning something new. And at a certain point, need to take action. You can't just sit and think
Yes.
and decide for years on end.
I agree. This will help, I think, to listeners. And I, as a woman, especially, I think that it was a really helpful movie. Lilia Reinhart, she's an actress in Riverdale. She has a movie called Look Both Ways, which starts at basically she is taking a pregnancy test, and the movie plays out and what happens when she has the baby because the test was
Mm,
positive, and she doesn't have the baby because the test is negative. And without ruining the plot, it's a very beautiful movie in that it shows you that she had easy moments and hard moments at different points in time. So her life looked different, and how, like, at the end, everything plays out okay in both
mm,
timelines.
mhm.
Um, and I really like this, especially as a woman that feels like, we have timelines, because it really does show you that, like, when you stay authentic to who you are and what you love, and like let life play out how it's supposed to play out. Um, and for example, like if you're a driven woman and you're like, you will be successful, and success is going to look a certain way. It just may not look like what you wanted it to look. It might not follow the path that you imagined and envisioned, but success will get there if you yourself are a person that like works hard. Things that maybe you wanted now, you may not get them today, but you might get them later in the line. So it's a really hopeful movie in knowing that, like, oh my God, like no matter what choices I make or what happens, it's all gonna work out. And I think that we get into pessimistic loops like we both have been for the last couple of months or even like a year. But having that feeling of like, okay, that the timeline will play out how it's supposed to. But yeah, I highly recommend that movie. And you said you were watching, was it Dark Matter? That was interesting as well, right?
Yes, it's very, very interesting because it's a movie about basically like the multiverse and how there's like infinite versions of you and each different version in different worlds, you basically took like a different path. So like in one, you could end up having gotten rejected from law school and like never became a lawyer. And another one, you like end up marrying your college sweetheart and having kids with her. And the other one, you just focus on your career. And I think it just keeps going back to the question of, okay, like what matters in life? Is it achievement? Is it success? Is it the people you're with? Is it the journey? Like, what is it about it? And like the human desire and strive for kind of like a perfect life or like a perfectly planned life. That's kind of what I got away from it was that yes, there's these infinite possibilities, but I think the most important part is enjoying and being content with the version of life that you have and not focusing on like the other path. People get stuck in the what ifs, like, what if I had focused on my sciences more and gone down
Yeah.
that path? And it's like, well, if you would have done that, you might not have this beautiful family you have. You might have not met your significant other. It's like, do you want that trade off?
No, I mean, I think about that all the time. Jenna and I were talking about how, like, I had 3 job offers when I moved to Denver. Like, I could have moved to Boston, I could have
Mm,
moved here, I could have moved to LA,
wow. That's trippy.
and, like, how different our lives, I would have never met him, you know? And, like, I love him so much, and I can't imagine life without him.
I know,
So
and
it's
he would have
kinda like,
never met you. It's, like, weird that
yeah,
that could have just been a different yeah, like, literally a different universe if you moved to move to LA or Boston, and who would you have
Boston, yeah, like,
been?
it's like, what? And even, like, we were talking about how even, like, what college you go to sometimes can define where you stick around. If we go to
Yeah.
UCLA, a lot of people, like, stay in LA, they go to San Francisco, like, you kinda stay in, like, the West Coast side of town. If you go to school, for example, in like UPenn, you tend to go to like New York,
Mhm.
he was telling me, he was like, I went to Ohio. Most people go to Chicago right after that, like the closest big city. So it's crazy how like we all take different paths, but it's crazy how one different choice could have led you to a completely different life. And like,
Yeah.
I'm not over here overthinking like what college I went to, like what do I do this with everything else in my life, because life has gotten me so far. So I have to trust that like, okay, life's gonna continue to get me and put me where I'm supposed to be at.
That's real. So yeah, I recommend your movie. I haven't seen it, but I do recommend this show because I feel like these types of media really give you perspective. And I think that's what we need in these situations is just perspective and reminders of what is in our nature to do. Our nature is to compare ourselves to others, to always look forward, to like not look at what we have and kind of like underappreciate the things that are gifts in our lives, in the
Mhm.
paths that we have gone down.
And also, don't feel guilty for feeling these emotions. I
Of
talked
course.
about
Yeah.
feelings of jealousy that I had felt, and you kind of accept, okay, like I might feel a little jealous for a little bit, like, or I might be like a little upset that I don't have this and that. But bringing yourself back down to earth and being like, "It's gonna be okay," like, "This is
Mhm.
my path, that's their path, don't compare
Yes.
yourself." But it's okay to have a moment in time in which you feel these emotions. It's okay if you have a moment in time in which, like, you're confused and you don't know what to do and, like, you're mourning what you feel like you've lost. All in all these feelings are very normal, and I think that we both have example in which, like, multiple of our friends feel this way to a different
Yes.
capacity.
That's true.
And that is very prominent in like late 20s going into 30s. And a lot of it is, guys, like we've been sold that like once you're 30, you got to have it all down. You got to have that
I
all
know.
of it, and like that's just not real. And I think we forget that so easily. We know it's a stereotype, but I even get caught up in that idea, and I have to remind myself that like it's not that deep.
Enjoy the ride of life, you know?
Yeah, and
Have to
like said in the show Dark Matter, enjoy the people. Personally, one of my fears in life is that I don't wanna get caught up chasing the next big thing forever and
Yes.
always, and, like, forget to enjoy the things that bring me joy. My
Exactly.
friendships, my family, memories with them, memories with my mom, memories in my relationship. When we're in our deathbeds, guys, y'all, it's gonna be about the people, so definitely remember that too. It's not just about the hustle.
It's true.
Not to get morbid, but, I feel like that's it for the topic. That's a pretty good conversation.
Yeah, it was. It was. I was just reflecting on it. So, guys, I guess she's transitioning to a new life. I'm pivoting. I'm in my pivot year, but I think that's all we have, little ratties. Let us know what you think of this topic.
Yeah, and, like, if you're feeling this way, feelings of confusion, we all out here, and I think it's perfectly normal. So, we're in
Yeah.
it together.
Love you, little rats.
Love you so much.
Bye.
Bye.